Now, this is crucial. As you see, this goes, it goes to the coaches too. We are not the boss. As much as a lot of coaches out there go out there and think they're the boss, we are not the boss. And by the way, neither are them. Neither are they. We are colleagues working together. Okay? So you saw this earlier. Being respectful to you, the player, the family, and friends of the player. We have to be respectful to them. Remember how we said they have to be respectful also for the opinions of the coach and the training partner? Well, we have to be respectful for their opinion. If a player says, look, coach, I'm not feeling it, I don't understand, you talk to them. In the end, of course, we are the ones with the expertise. This is why they hire us, but you have to be respectful of their opinions and their feelings. You have to make sure that we are positive towards them, the player. The negativity cannot happen. We've talked to both of you guys about this. There's no such thing as positive criticism. Those are oxymoronic. They don't work. There's constructive feedback. I'll share with this. I got to find it. This came out the other day. I thought it was wonderful. It was beautiful to hear. Athletes who hear positive encouragement or affirmation are learning 30% faster than an athlete that gets negative reinforcement. It's a huge stat. Because once we hear things that are positive, we start releasing chemicals, especially dopamine, that wants us to try harder and to work harder. We hear negativity, we start to now secrete other chemicals that want us to shut down, because then we're fearful of what the consequences are going to be. Same thing with coaches, because this happens, and coaches, you see this all the time. We have to keep our personal problems aside. Also, we cannot bring our personal problems on the court. You pretty much see it's not cut and paste, but it's pretty much cut and paste. Okay, we just substitute, of course, from player to coach, but we put all these things in there. One of the biggest things also is to make sure when it comes to the coaches is the preparation. We have to make sure we're prepared before the practice. Okay, so again, we go through this whole entire contract. You see the schedules. Okay, as we were talking about earlier, you put in the schedules down so they have an idea. Okay, option 1, option 2. This is what we did with the players. So they started, again, we give them 2 options. They choose. At the end, the player and the coach, it's a relationship that is like this. And the standards that you have for the player should be very, very high. But the standards the player should have for the coach also need to be extremely high. So at the end, the standards have to match each other. Like I said before, it cannot be coach is on top, players on bottom. It cannot be the players on top, the coach is on the bottom. It cannot. We are on the same level. As I said also earlier, we're colleagues. We are partners. One is not the boss and one is not the employee. We are both employees in the same company, our project. So those signatures have to be together. All right, so how do you introduce the contract? Because you say, well, we have a character contract. Right away, the player might say, well, I've never signed one of these before. Okay, how come I need to do this? How would you introduce a contract for them? You know what the two most dangerous words when it comes to trust are? You know how easy you can break trust? You know what are the 2 most dangerous words? You hear this and you should run. The moment you go out there and someone says, and by the way, we've all been in business dealings before, let's face it, all of us, where we've gotten signed into a contract, we've gotten into an employer, okay, we've gotten into another coach, even when we were juniors, and said, no, trust me. Well, and something as simple as this is, even if you go out there and you know someone for years, the way you introduce the contract and say, look, this is protection for you and for me too. How come? I forget things. If we have things in writing and black and white, it's very easy to go back to them. So if we go out there and say, I'm supposed to be at practice setting up 15 minutes prior, and I'm setting up right on time when the practice starts, then the player can remind the coach, say, coach, we signed something in 15 minutes. Oh, you know what? My fault. Or next time you sign the contract, the next year, say, hey, look, you know what? 15 minutes is not going to work. I need 5 minutes and I'll be ready before practice. And you can change it. But it's clear for every party. Okay? You want to make sure you have things written down so you can go back to them and review them, because we forget. And that's easily that you sell it to the player. Hey, I forget. And sometimes you're going to forget too. So this helps us just remind ourselves. That's how you introduce it. How do you implement it? This is done before there's any money exchanged. This is done before there's any money exchange. Again, this is the profile now that matches your profile with their profile. Now it's matching. Then you can take the money in. Okay, but you don't get paid and do a business deal without understanding who you're dealing with. You implement this contract before you even take money in, because part of the contract is going to be, for example, we're working together starting March 1st. You're paying February 29th of this year because it was leap year. Every single month you're paying by the last day before we start the next month. You're paying full by the last day of the last day of that month. For example, both of you are going through certification. Okay, Abby, you saw this the other day. Rohan knows this. We don't do anything until you guys pay. Period. As much as I care about both of you, at the end it's clear it is business in this aspect. Okay, so you want to make sure you're very clear with all of this. What happens when the contract is broken? Right? To be very frank with you, this is going to happen at some point with Shambhu is a young man. Okay, not to say that the old man cannot make mistakes. I'm sure at some point I'll make a mistake too. For the first time, what you do is say, hey, remember the contract? Yeah, remember this? Yeah, coach, man, my fault, my bad. Or, hey, player, my fault, I messed up. It's fine. It happens. The second time, you have a formal meeting. You bring the contract out, the contract they literally signed, and you present it to them and say, hey, what's going on? This is the second time you've broken the contract. What's going on here? The third time, thank you so much. Relationship is over when it comes to working together. That's it. Simple. The expectation is not meeting the reality. The reality is you're breaking the contract now 3 times. We are moving on. By communicating this with the player, they now have a lot of kind of accountability to say, I better make sure I follow this. But again, you also put yourself in a position where you have to make sure your standards are very high and you're held accountable to your own writing and your own words and your own ethics and morals. Just like baseball, 3 strikes and you're out. I wish you say it to an extent, say, look, it's just, I respect my time, I respect my effort, and I respect the relationship I want to have with someone. Okay, and vice versa, by the way. If I'm late for your practices, if I don't have the microcycles ready and I'm not setting up the right way, you should fire me as a coach. I should not be your coach. You hold yourself to a high standard. Why do you need one? To make sure that when people forget, you're able to go back to it, remind yourselves, okay? And to make sure that you have peace of mind. Whatever you thought that you wanted in this relationship, you say beforehand. That way they're able to comply to it. And also, when you renegotiate at the end of the year and you sign another contract, you're able to say, like I said earlier, if you want to change the timing from 15 minutes to 5 minutes, if you're able to do this or that a little bit different because it works for you guys better, then you do it. But you now have a record of what wasn't working so well. So at the end, you need to make sure you have a record to improve your relationship.
When we form a contract, so player can also make coach accountable, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. And there's part of it actually, and this is more of the IT of junior that we have. Okay. But also there's a part where the parent signs too. They're going to act on the court, how they're going to act off the court, how they're going to make decisions. Yeah, so we make sure that everybody's included because again, everybody has to be included. Like we always say, the player's driving the car, the coach is the navigator, and the parents are in the back. Okay, and they're the ones that can be saying, "Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet?" So it's to say, "Hey, we're not quite there yet. This is what we need to do." So you're guiding everybody in the car. Now, the player decides how fast they're going to go or slow, depending how they acquire the skills and how we navigate them. But it's our job to navigate all parties. not to exclude parties. So we actually make parents sign contracts also.
And what if the coach not able to fulfill his promises as per the contract?
At the end, it's the same thing we said, is if the player cannot comply with a contract, it's no different with a coach. If the coach cannot comply with a contract, the players should say, enough is enough. 3 times you're out. Sorry, him or her, doesn't matter. At the end, you have to comply with what you said you would. Because remember, you set this up before you ever started working together. You set this up before you ever took a rupee or a dollar, okay, or a yen or whatever. You set this up beforehand. So you have to now live up to it. You set up your terms and conditions. All right, so now you start getting to the vision statements. Okay, like we said, what are the goals of the player? The player now has told you kind of what he wants or she wants when it comes to the times, what the practice should look like, but also you have to talk about what their goals are going to be. You know, maybe they want to go pro, maybe they want to go to college, maybe they want to go out there. And I know we're talking about more ITF players, so they have very high goals when it comes to tennis itself. So you want to make sure you understand what their goals are. You have to understand, and you have to interview the parents. Okay, we did this actually. We had extensive interviews with Shamuk's parents. I talk to the parents all the time. The parents don't actually think that I interview them because again, the conversation is so friendly or whatnot. But it's an interview. You know, who talks more, mom or dad? Who talks louder, mom or dad? You know, who calls me more, mom or dad? Okay. Um, you know, I met Shamuk's sister through the phone. Again, siblings. What is the relationship between the siblings together? So you start getting all these information, and also you ask him what is the goal that they have. Well, the goal right now for Shambuk, which was great, was, hey, coach, we just want to make sure that he gets, you know, more disciplined, that he becomes, you know, the best tennis player, of course, he can be, like every other parent, and he starts making the transition between juniors and seniors, because right now he's got 2 years before he really has to make that transition fully, but it's coming. What are the goals of the coach? My goals for Shambuk, right, are to help him make that transition. I share the same exact goals that he has, but also his parents have. So we're all right now aligned. So it's a very powerful and a very strong relationship. All of us match, are there discrepancies? Is this what it looks like? The player, of course, like we said, being the biggest part of it. Okay, the coach really being the next part, because again, I'm here with him all the time. Okay, and of course, the parents also in there. They're critical. They're a nucleus to this whole thing as well, because they need the emotional support. They're given, of course, the finances, and again, they talk to them every single day, as they should, as they should. So we all are all in this together. Or does it look like this? Because at the end, a lot of relationships look like this, where the player is really stuck in the middle because they share the goals of a coach, and they also might share the goals of the parents. But the goals of the coach and the parent do not align. Whether the parent wants the player to win all the time and the coach understands that they don't. Or, for example, the parent might want the child to be happy and to learn, but the coach wants the child to go out there and they want to punish them, and they want to, you know, same thing, they want to win all the time. Okay, well, they don't align, period. And the player at the end, the unfortunate part is start getting in the middle, and they start ripping the player apart because he has to choose one side or the other. Okay, fortunate or not, the player will choose the parent every time. The question is when. Again, it's the parent. They're stuck with the parent to an extent. Okay, so we have to make sure that before you ever engage in a relationship, that the goals are all aligned like we had here. This is the best case scenario. This is the worst case scenario.
If the goals of a player and the parents are different, maybe parents expect something different from the player, and player wants something else.
Absolutely. And that's what we said, is this is why you do the interview with the parents. And you sit down with them and you get their goals. And you help to educate. Because look, there's 2 aspects to it, Abby. There's parents that have been through a process like this before because they've had children that have gone through the same sport or other sports, or the parents themselves have gone through the sport themselves. Okay, maybe they were athletes when they were younger and they've gone through this process. And also you have parents that have never gone through this. At the end, it's your job to educate the parent on what it's going to look like, okay, what the vision is, and you give them an idea, of course, of the mission, which we'll talk about here later, okay, the mission. That's all you can do. And let's just say their goals do not match the player. Guess what? The relationship is not going to work. You have different philosophies. If you have two different philosophies, it's not going to work. Okay. And you're not there to necessarily fix it. You're there to educate, and hopefully they understand where you're coming from and start going towards your side. And your job is to continue that education. But at some point, like we said, is at the beginning, if you see that the philosophies are so far apart, it's not worth your time. At the end, the relationship's going to break down at some point anyways. Might as well not even engage in the relationship. It's unfortunate for the player to miss out on a great coach, but at the end of the day, it's also important for you to work with the people you want to work with. Questions on that?
Suppose the player just wants to play for fun, and then, but the parents' goal is to make them the international player, and they put too much pressure. Then how will you help?
Well, it's such a great question, right? Because it brings up a couple of things. One of them is every player should play for fun. Every player should play for fun. Okay, Rohan has been on the court with me with professional players. Right, Rohan? It's fun. I mean, we enjoy our time. We put them in scenarios that they're games. At the end, let's face it, we're all just playing a game. The question is who can play the game better than the other one. That's it. It's no more, no less. Okay. So if you're having, think about what I said earlier, is if you're having fun and you get some positive affirmation, you're learning 37% faster anyways. So it should always be fun. Now, fun, through a definition that we use, are two things. One of them, they're working hard, okay? Because at the end, we work hard, we feel like we accomplished something, but also they're acquiring, okay? They're acquiring a new skill, or they're making their skill better, okay? Once a player leaves the court, feeling those two things, they're having fun, okay? And it's progressive. It should continue to build. So fun is not just going out there and screwing around, and no, that's not fun in our definition, okay? Especially with performance players. And by the way, we treat everybody as a performance player, right, Rohan? Even the red ball players, to us, they're all performance, because at the end we treat them that way because maybe they will be. Okay, so again, they go out there, they're having a good time, okay, in the sense that they're working together, they're laughing, they're laughing, they're learning how to work together and socialize, but they're acquiring new skills, or they're making the skills they had already better. That's fun. Now, if a parent, like we said, is if the player goes out there and they're not really on that route, and the parents already saying, I want to, because you're right, I've heard this before verbatim. I want to make him the next Wimbledon champion. I want to make him the next number one. Right away, a red flag should go up. And you say, okay, how do we intend to do this? So again, listen to my words. We intend to do this, compared to what the parent might say, well, I want to make. And see if they start repeating and talking like you, or if they're still stuck in I, the first person, I want to make them. Because then you say, you know what, this might not be worth my time. Might not be worth, it's not worth your time. Okay, if you have someone that's so controlling and they now feel like they're the nucleus, remember how we went back, they're the complete nucleus, okay, then we have an issue. So the player first, and the parent plays such an important role, but they are a supportive role to the player. The coach is a supportive role to the player, not vice versa. Okay. So if somebody comes up to you and says, I want to make him the next champion, the red flag should go off, and you should start understanding, okay, that this might not be the person for you. You need to continue asking questions, and asking questions with the words of we and us and the process, and listen to them to say, are they still saying I and me and results? And if they are, that's where you say, Abby, you know, this might not be the program for you.